Chief Observer Elevix stood at the observation deck of the Xylaxian research vessel, Starweaver, her iridescent scales shifting colors with anxiety as she studied the readings from the Class 12 gravity world below. The planet's inhabitants should have been impossible. No intelligent life could evolve in such crushing gravity. Yet there they were, building cities, launching spacecraft, and defying everything the Xylaxian Scientific Council believed about habitability. "Administrator, you need to see this," her junior researcher Tasley called out, his tendrils waving in excitement. "They're broadcasting entertainment signals. Look at this." The holographic display showed what appeared to be humans participating in something called Olympic Games. Elevix's compound eyes widened as she watched them lift massive weights, sprint at incredible speeds, and launch themselves through the air in defiance of their world's oppressive gravity. "By the stellar currents," she whispered, "they're not just surviving, they're thriving." The Xylaxians had evolved on a world with just one-third Earth's gravity. Their tall, willowy frames and lightweight bone structure made them exceptionally agile in low gravity, but vulnerable in higher gravitational fields. For generations, they had avoided heavy worlds, considering them death traps. Species from such planets were labeled Deathworlders, creatures to be feared and avoided. Yet as Elevix continued studying the human broadcasts, something challenged her preconceptions. Between displays of their physical prowess, she saw humans caring for their young, creating art, and helping injured animals. They used their strength not to dominate, but to build, protect, and nurture. "Tasley, analyze their medical broadcasts," she ordered. "I want to understand how they treat the vulnerable." The data painted an unexpected picture. Despite their incredible physical capabilities, humans devoted enormous resources to helping their weakest members. They had developed sophisticated medical science, assistive technologies, and social support systems. "Administrator," her cultural specialist Myrex interrupted, "you should see their response to natural disasters." The display showed humans rushing into dangerous situations, burning buildings, floodwaters, collapsed structures, to save others, often at risk to themselves. They're using their death world adaptations for protection, not predation, Elevix realized. This changes everything we thought we knew about heavy world species. The Xylaxian High Council would be skeptical. Their fear of Deathworlders ran deep, reinforced by unfortunate encounters with other heavy world species who had used their physical advantages for conquest. But humans seemed different. They had the strength to dominate, yet their media was filled with stories about restraint, about using power responsibly. "Prepare a first contact proposal," Elevix decided. "The Council needs to see this. We've been wrong about Deathworlders, or at least, wrong about these Deathworlders." "Administrator." Tasley's voice carried an edge of panic. "We're detecting a ship approaching our position. It's human." Elevix felt her scales shift to pale blue, the color of fear. They weren't ready for this. First contact protocols required months of preparation, careful cultural study, and extensive safety measures. But as she watched the human vessels approach on the main viewer, she noticed something remarkable. Despite its superior propulsion capability, the ship was matching their velocity exactly, maintaining a respectful distance. A communication request came through their receivers. The human ship's captain, introducing herself as Sarachin, spoke in carefully measured tones. "Unknown vessel, we come in peace. We've noticed you studying our world and we'd like to talk. No pressure, we'll maintain our distance until you're comfortable." Elevix exchanged looks with her crew. The humans could have easily approached with overwhelming speed and power. Instead, they were being deliberately gentle, careful not to frighten the obviously lighter gravity visitors. "Perhaps," Elevix said, her scales shifting to the green of hope, "we have more to learn from these Deathworlders than we ever imagined." She straightened her tall frame and gave the order to accept the communication. "Captain Chin, this is Administrator Elevix of the Xylaxian Science vessel Starweaver. We would very much like to talk." As the first words were exchanged between their species, Elevix knew they stood at the threshold of something remarkable. These humans, these gentle giants who had mastered their harsh world without losing their compassion, might just change the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be strong. 6 months after first contact, the Xylaxian Human Cultural Exchange Station hung in Earth's orbit, a testament to both species' commitment to understanding each other. The station's unique design reflected its dual purpose. One section maintained Earth normal gravity for the humans, while the other simulated the gentler pull of the Xylaxian homeworld. Commander Maya Rodriguez watched through the observation window as a group of Xylaxian scientists practiced moving in Earth gravity using specially designed exosupport frames. The sight of their tall, graceful forms learning to adapt to her world's crushing pull filled her with admiration. "They're incredibly brave," Dr. James Chin remarked, joining her at the window. "Imagine us trying to function at 3 times Earth's gravity. That's what this feels like to them." The Xylaxians' determination to understand humans matched humanity's fascination with them. While the aliens learned to cope with high gravity, human scientists were learning the intricacies of Xylaxian technology, particularly their mastery of gravitational fields and neural interfaces. In the station's shared recreation area, where gravity was set at a compromise level, an unexpected scene unfolded. A young Xylaxian researcher named Kexti was teaching a group of human children about their solar sail technology, his iridescent scales shifting to warm colors of excitement as the children asked countless questions. In return, the children were showing him how to make paper airplanes, delighting in his amazement at simple aerodynamics. Commander Rodriguez, her calm unit chimed. "The Xylaxian High Council representatives have arrived for the technology exchange briefing." Maya made her way to the conference room, where High Counselor Vixon waited with her delegation. The tall Xylaxian's scales shimmered with diplomatic formality, but there was genuine warmth in her compound eyes. "Counselor," Maya bowed slightly, having learned this was the appropriate greeting. "Welcome to the exchange station." "Commander," Vixon replied, attempting a human smile, a gesture they had adopted after learning its significance. "Your people's hospitality continues to amaze us. Today's demonstration will be particularly interesting." The demonstration in question was humanity's proposal for a joint defense initiative. While the Xylaxians had advanced technology, their physical limitations made them vulnerable to aggressive species. Humans proposed combining their physical capabilities with Xylaxian tech to create something new. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the project lead, activated the holographic display. "We call it the Guardian program," she explained. "Using modified versions of your neural interface technology, human operators can remotely control defensive platforms in high-gravity environments where Xylaxian systems would be crushed." The Xylaxians watched in fascination as test footage showed human pilots, their minds linked to robotic avatars, performing rescue operations in gravitational conditions that would kill both species without protection. But instead of weapons, the avatars carried medical equipment and engineering tools. "You use your strength to protect," Vixon observed, her scales shifting to thoughtful purple. "Even when building defense systems, you think first of saving lives." "The strongest among us have the greatest responsibility to help others," Maya replied, quoting her grandmother. "It's something humans learned through hard experience." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. A Xylaxian research vessel had suffered a critical failure in its gravity generators. The ship was being pulled into a gas giant's gravity well, its crew unable to function in the increasing gravitational force. Without hesitation, Maya turned to Vixon. "Permission to attempt a rescue using our prototype Guardian system?" The counselor's scales flickered between fear and hope. "The system hasn't been fully tested. It would be dangerous." "That's exactly why we should try," Dr. Martinez interjected. "This is what we built it for." Within hours, human pilots were neurally linked to Guardian units, launching toward the stricken vessel. They moved through the crushing gravity as if it were nothing, their human operators safe in normal gravity, but lending their adaptability and strength through the robotic avatars. The rescue was successful, though not without complications. 2 Guardian units were destroyed by the intense pressures, but their human operators, safely distant, were unharmed. More importantly, the entire Xylaxian crew was saved. In the aftermath, as medical teams treated the rescued Xylaxians for gravity exposure, Vixon approached Maya with scales showing deep emotion. "We feared Deathworlders because we thought great strength could only be used for violence," the counselor admitted. "Today we learned that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect." The High Council will approve full implementation of the Guardian program. Maya smiled. "This is just the beginning, Counselor. Together, we can create something greater than either of our species could achieve alone." As she watched humans and Xylaxians working side by side, Maya knew she was witnessing the birth of something remarkable, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of strength and vulnerability, power and responsibility, fear and trust. The warning came during a routine cultural exchange session on the joint station. A Xylaxian long-range scout ship transmitted its final message before going dark, Valaxian warships approaching the Meridian colony. "They're not responding to hails. The Empire is coming." Maya Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Human Xylaxian Joint Fleet, felt her blood run cold. The Valaxans were notorious throughout the sector, a species that had evolved on a high-gravity world like Earth, but had chosen a path of conquest. They viewed lighter-gravity species as prey, raiding their worlds for resources and slaves. "How many ships?" she asked Kexti, who had grown from a young researcher into her trusted communications officer. "Initial scans show 30 warships," he replied, his scales a pale gray of dread. "The colony has minimal defenses. 10,000 civilians, mostly scientists and their families." The Meridian colony was the pride of the Xylaxian expansion effort, a research outpost studying stellar phenomena. Its location made it perfect for astronomy, but left it vulnerable to attack. "Launch the Guardian fleet," Maya ordered. "And get me High Counselor Vixon." The response was immediate. Within hours, 20 Guardian units launched from Earth, their human pilots neurally linked from secure facilities. Alongside them, 5 human warships and 3 Xylaxian science vessels modified for combat support made the jump to hyperspace. "The Valaxans won't expect us," Vixon's image flickered on the command screen. "They don't know about our alliance. They think they're attacking a helpless Xylaxian colony." Maya nodded grimly. "That's our advantage. But we need to evacuate the civilians first. The Guardians will buy us time, but against 30 warships." "We have another option," Kexti interrupted, his scales flickering with nervous energy. "The Stellar Research Station. It's been studying solar flares. The equipment could be modified to create a targeted electromagnetic pulse. That would disable both sides," Maya pointed out. "Not if we integrate Xylaxian shielding with human-hardened electronics," Kexti countered. "Our ships can withstand it. Theirs can't." It was a desperate plan, but they were short on alternatives. As the fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Meridian, the Valaxian ships were already in attack formation. Their leader's message was brief and brutal: "Surrender your world or watch it burn." Maya's response was to launch the Guardian units. The Valaxians' first surprise came when their initial barrage met ships that moved with impossible speed and precision in the high gravity around Meridian. Their second surprise was seeing those ships crewed by beings who showed no signs of gravity stress. "Impossible," the Valaxian commander snarled over the comm. "No species can match our strength." "We're not trying to match your strength," Maya responded. "We're showing you a different kind of power." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The Guardian units, controlled by Earth's best pilots, danced between Valaxian ships, their smaller size and superior maneuverability making them difficult targets. Meanwhile, Xylaxian scientists worked frantically to modify their solar research equipment. The Valaxans, realizing they faced real opposition, switched tactics. They launched dropships toward the colony, hoping to take hostages. But here they met another surprise: human marines in powered armor, fighting alongside Xylaxian security forces using anti-gravity technology. The defenders held their ground, protecting the evacuation corridors. "Solar station modified," Kexti reported, his scales now the deep blue of concentrated effort. "But we'll only get one shot." Maya looked at her tactical display. The Guardian units had destroyed 8 Valaxian ships, but they were taking heavy losses. 3 human warships were damaged, and the Xylaxian vessels were running out of power for their defensive screens. "All Allied ships, activate electromagnetic shielding," she ordered. KXTI on my mark. The pulse, when it came, was invisible but devastating. Valaxian ships, their systems fried, began drifting in space. Their backup systems, designed for a simpler age of warfare, were useless against the combined human-Xylaxian technology. "Your choice," Maya transmitted to the Valaxian flagship. "Accept surrender terms or drift in space until your life support fails. Either way, you've lost." The Valaxians, faced with an enemy they couldn't overpower, chose surrender. As Maya watched them being taken into custody, she reflected on how the Alliance had changed both species. Humans had learned to temper their strength with Xylaxian wisdom, while the Xylaxians had discovered their own kind of courage. "I never thought I'd see this day," Vixon said quietly during the aftermath. "My people, standing against the Valaxians without fear." "It's not about being fearless," Maya replied. "It's about finding strength in our differences. Together, we're something new, something better than either of us could be alone." The Battle of Meridian marked a turning point. Word spread throughout the galaxy. The Xylaxians were no longer easy prey, and humans were not the simple brutes many had assumed them to be. A new power had emerged, one built not on conquest but on cooperation, not on fear but on mutual respect. In the 2 years following the Battle of Meridian, the Human-Xylaxian alliance transformed from a simple partnership into a revolutionary force in galactic politics. The joint training facility on Mars, with its adaptable gravity environments, became the heart of their combined military and scientific endeavors. Lieutenant Sarah Chin, daughter of the captain who made first contact, stood in the facility's central command center, watching teams of humans and Xylaxians work seamlessly together. The sight would have been unimaginable just a few years ago, the tall, graceful Xylaxians using modified exoframes to match human strength, while humans learned to operate Xylaxian gravity manipulation technology. "The latest Guardian prototype is ready for testing," announced Dr. KXTI, his scales shimmering with excitement. The young scientist had become one of the program's lead developers, combining human neural interface technology with Xylaxian gravitational field manipulation. The new Guardian units were a far cry from the early models used at Meridian. These incorporated Xylaxian biofeedback systems that allowed human pilots to feel their surroundings, while adding Xylaxian gravity control that let them operate in environments that would crush even human-made machines. "Show me," Sarah said, following him to the testing chamber. Inside, her old friend Maya Rodriguez, now retired from Fleet Command, was helping train new pilots. "The key," Maya explained to a group of mixed-species recruits, "is understanding that strength isn't just about physical power." The Valaxians never learned that lesson. They thought being adapted to high gravity made them superior. But true strength comes from adaptation, cooperation, and wisdom. The demonstration that followed showed how far they'd come. A human pilot, neurally linked to a Guardian unit, worked in perfect synchronization with a Xylaxian controller managing its gravitational field systems. Together, they accomplished tasks that neither species could manage alone, operating in crushing gravity while performing delicate mechanical work that required both strength and precision. But not everyone welcomed these changes. A faction of conservative Xylaxians, led by Council member Rixtal, argued that too much interaction with Deathworlders would corrupt their society. Meanwhile, some human politicians worried about sharing advanced technology with a physically weaker species. The debate came to a head when long-range sensors detected something troubling. The Valaxians hadn't given up. They had adapted, building ships specifically designed to counter Guardian units. Worse, they had found allies among other high-gravity species who feared the growing influence of the Human-Xylaxian alliance. "They're calling themselves the Dominion of Strength," reported Admiral Vixon, her scales dark with concern. Their propaganda claims were violating natural law by helping weak species compete with strong ones. Sarah studied the tactical displays showing Dominion fleet movements. "They're not just building an army, they're building an ideology. One that says might makes right." "Then we need to prove them wrong," Maya said firmly. not just tactically, but philosophically. Show the galaxy that true strength comes in many forms. The Alliance response was unprecedented. Rather than merely building more weapons, they launched Operation Guardian, a massive program combining military defense with humanitarian aid. Guardian units were modified to serve as disaster response teams, their human pilots and Xylaxian controllers working together to help worlds devastated by natural disasters or Dominion raids. On a mining colony hit by devastating earthquakes, Guardian units lifted collapsed buildings while their Xylaxian systems maintained protective gravitational fields around rescue workers. On an ocean world suffering from massive storms, they deployed Xylaxian atmospheric stabilizers controlled by human operators who could withstand the crushing pressures at depth. The message spread: the Alliance wasn't just about military power, it was about using strength to protect and serve. This is what they'll never understand, Sarah told a group of new recruits watching a Guardian unit help rebuild a school on a frontier world. Every time they attack a weak world, we show up to help rebuild. Every time they try to rule through fear, we demonstrate the power of cooperation. The strategy worked in unexpected ways. Other species began approaching the Alliance, not out of fear but out of hope. High-gravity species impressed by human restraint. Low-gravity species inspired by Xylaxian adaptability. Each brought their own strengths, their own perspectives. "We're creating something new," KXTI observed, watching the latest class of mixed-species Guardian pilots graduate. Not just new technology or new tactics, but a new way of thinking about strength and weakness, power and responsibility. As Sarah watched human and Xylaxian children play together in the station's recreational area, she realized they had already won the most important battle, not against the Dominion, but against fear itself. The next generation would grow up knowing that different didn't mean dangerous, that strength could come from cooperation as much as competition. The true power of Operation Guardian wasn't in its military might or technological innovation. It was in proving that the galaxy's greatest strength lay not in dominating others, but in helping them rise. The Dominion struck without warning. 100 warships emerged from hyperspace near Earth, while another fleet appeared at the Xylaxian homeworld. It was no longer about raids or intimidation. This was an attempt to destroy the Alliance at its source. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship, Unity, watching as the massive Dominion fleet approached Earth. The enemy ships were unlike anything they'd faced before, huge, heavily armored vessels designed to withstand both human weapons and Xylaxian gravity manipulation. "They've been planning this for years," Maya Rodriguez said from the Neural Command Center where she coordinated the Guardian fleet. "Every raid, every skirmish, they were testing our responses, learning our tactics." The Dominion's message played across all frequencies: surrender now, and your peoples will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and we will demonstrate true strength. But the Alliance had been preparing too. As the Dominion fleet moved into attack position, they encountered something unexpected: a network of gravitational anomalies created by orbital platforms designed by KXTI. The massive warships found their movements constrained, forced into predictable channels. "Remember your training," Sarah broadcast to the combined fleet. "We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for an idea. The idea that strength means more than just power." The battle erupted in a display of light and energy that could be seen from Earth's surface. Guardian units, piloted by both humans and Xylaxians who had trained to operate in each other's gravity environments, struck at the Dominion ship's vulnerable points. Alliance vessels used revolutionary hybrid technology, combining human durability with Xylaxian precision. But the Dominion had brought their own innovations. Their ships carried soldiers genetically enhanced for even greater strength, wearing armor that could resist gravity manipulation. When they boarded Alliance vessels, even human crews struggled to repel them. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Dr. Vixon, monitoring the battle from the Xylaxian Science Academy, noticed something in the Dominion's neural enhancement signatures. They're soldiers' augmentations, they're unstable. The more they exert themselves, the more their neural patterns degrade. This information changed everything. Instead of meeting the Dominion's strength head-on, Alliance forces began fighting defensively, using Xylaxian gravity fields to force the enemy troops to overexert themselves. Slowly, the enhanced soldiers began to falter, their own augmented strength becoming their weakness. "They've forgotten what you taught us," Kextii transmitted from the Xylaxian homeworld, where a similar battle raged. "Strength without wisdom destroys itself." The battle lasted 3 days. Alliance casualties were heavy, but the Dominion losses were catastrophic. Their enhanced soldiers, pushed beyond their limits, began to break down. Their mighty ships, trapped in engineered gravity wells, couldn't maneuver effectively against the more agile Alliance vessels. In the end, the Dominion commander requested terms of surrender. As Sarah watched the enemy fleet power down their weapons, she reflected on how far both species had come. The Xylaxians, once fearful of all high-gravity species, had stood their ground against the galaxy's greatest warriors. Humans, once seen as potential conquerors, had proven that strength could serve rather than dominate. "We won because we evolved," Maya observed during the surrender ceremony. "Not physically, but culturally. We learned from each other, adapted, became something greater than either species alone." The aftermath brought changes no one had expected. Other species, impressed by the Alliance's victory, began requesting membership. The Dominion's defeated forces, freed from their neural augmentations, saw their former leader's philosophy for the hollow thing it was. "Perhaps this is the true test of strength," Sarah said as she watched rehabilitation centers being established for the former Dominion soldiers. Not just winning the battle, but healing afterwards. Not just defeating an enemy, but turning them into friends. The battle for Earth and Xylax marked the end of an era. The galaxy would still face challenges, but the old paradigm of strong versus weak, predator versus prey, had been broken. A new understanding was emerging, that true strength lay not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to build, protect, and unite. 20 years after the Dominion War, the Galactic Concordat headquarters on Mars stood as a testament to how far things had come. The massive complex housed representatives from over 50 species, its architecture seamlessly blending different gravitational needs and environmental requirements. Admiral Sarah Chin, now serving as Earth's representative to the Concordat, walked through the main chamber with her old friend Kextii, whose scales now showed the deeper hues of age and wisdom. They were preparing for a ceremony that would have seemed impossible just decades ago, the inauguration of the first Valaxian representative to the Concordat Council. "Did you ever imagine this?" Sarah asked, watching species from high-gravity and low-gravity worlds mingling freely, thanks to advances in environmental adaptation technology. "When we first met the Xylaxians, did you think we'd end up here?" Kextii's scales shifted to the warm colors of contentment. "Honestly, I was too busy being terrified of humans to imagine much of anything. Now look at us. My granddaughter is training to be a Guardian pilot." The Guardian program had evolved far beyond its military origins. Guardian units now served as disaster response teams, exploration vessels, and construction crews. The neural interface technology had been refined to allow any species to operate them, creating opportunities for cooperation that transcended physical limitations. Maya Rodriguez, now director of the Interspecies Defense Academy, joined them at the observation window. Below, in the Academy's training grounds, young cadets from dozens of worlds practiced together. Former Dominion warriors taught combat techniques alongside Xylaxian physics instructors, while human engineers worked with alien scientists to develop new technologies. "The latest survey results are in," Maya reported. "Interspecies violence is at its lowest point in recorded history. The old prejudices about deathworlders and weak species are fading. The younger generations don't even understand why they existed." The ceremony began with a symbolic gesture, representatives from Earth, Xylax, and the former Dominion worlds simultaneously activating a new type of gravity control system. The technology, developed through collaboration between all three civilizations, would allow any species to visit any world safely, breaking down the last physical barriers between cultures. "We gather here not to celebrate victory," Sarah began her address, "but to commemorate transformation. 20 years ago, we proved that strength could be more than physical power. Today, we prove that civilization can be more than competition. As she spoke, news came in from across the galaxy. A human Xylaxian research team had made breakthroughs in understanding quantum gravity. A mixed-species expedition had made first contact with a new civilization, handling the encounter with wisdom gained from past experiences. Former enemy species now work together to solve common problems. The true legacy of our alliance, Kextii added when it was his turn to speak, isn't in the technology we've created or the battles we've won. It's in the minds we've changed, including our own. The ceremony concluded with a demonstration that brought tears to many eyes. A group of children, human, Xylaxian, Valaxian, and others, performed a dance they had choreographed together. Each moved according to their natural abilities, yet they flowed as one, their differences creating something beautiful rather than discord. Later, in the quiet of her office, Sarah found herself looking at an old photograph from the first days of human Xylaxian contact. "We were so young," she mused to Maya, who had stopped by to share a drink. "So certain we knew what strength meant." "We learned," Maya replied. "And more importantly, we taught others. The galaxy's not perfect. We still have challenges, conflicts, misunderstandings. But now we face them together." As night fell over Mars, the lights of the Concordat headquarters illuminated the desert landscape. In orbit above, ships of all species moved in harmony, their crews working together regardless of their world of origin. On countless planets, beings who once would have feared or fought each other now collaborated, celebrated, and created together. The legacy of the Human Xylaxian Alliance had become something greater than its founders could have imagined, not just a partnership between two species, but a new way of understanding strength, weakness, and the infinite possibilities that lay in between. "Perhaps," Sarah said, watching the stars where new adventures awaited, "this was what we were meant to teach the galaxy. Not that some are strong and others weak, but that true strength lies in lifting each other up." And in the vast darkness of space, countless worlds turned, their peoples no longer divided by gravity or biology, but united in the greatest adventure of all, discovering what they could become together.